Welcome to another video, and today we're going to be looking at really how to build great health from building a strong foundation, not just with exercise, not just with food, but several factors, in fact 8 factors. So let's get into this so we don't take too long. So first thing you need to understand is that building a healthy body is very similar to building a house, in that you really need to have a strong foundation. There's no point worrying about what furniture you have or what the roof's like or all the the kitchen and all those sort of things without a solid foundation. If you really skip that foundation, everything you put in inside the house or up from the ground is really going to be compromised heavily. So and health is very much the same, and those foundations, there's more than just one. So there's really, like I've got in this slide here, 6, but really I'd probably break some of them into a couple of the movement things might break into 2 branches, and same with nutrition might break off into a couple of things as well, which I'll touch on in a minute. So I probably would say there's really about 8 things that you have to really look after, and understanding that each one of them is bound to each other. So if one's off, they're all off. All right, so in terms of the bodies, it's really quite a complex structure, and this is why you can't just rely on only exercise or one thing or just diet. You really got to look after everything, and you can see here these are all the different systems that the body is running like 24/7. Some of them require more maintenance than others, and depending on the person, but you really can't live without any of these. If I asked you now which system you're happy to do without, you really can't say any of them. I really can't live without any of them. If I eliminate one, I'm in a lot of trouble. And that's really what happens to our body when we experience poor health. One of these systems, or several of them, are really heavily compromised, and then it basically disrupts the entire system because of these things. So when you understand that, you really begin to appreciate all the little things you've got to do to look after your body. So this is sort of what I've just explained then. So if one system's not functioning well, compromise the health of the others, basically to bring it up to the level that it should be at. And this is also why the gym junkie ignores nutrition. May look good on the outside, but underneath is going to be suffering. And same with the person who just uses diet. They may also look great on the outside, but may also suffer things from lack of exercise. So when each system's bound to itself, to the other one, and you really have to be constantly looking after all of them, and especially the autonomic nervous system, or the autonomic systems, because they're the ones that are running all the time. They can never stop. So that's like our heart, our lungs, breathing, basically just general involuntary bodily functions. We tend to not really think about them too much until something goes wrong. But it's all of these other factors that really place these systems under immense stress if we don't look after them. So things like digestion, which comes back to foods we eat or how we're eating, how we're sleeping, all those sort of things. So they really influence this autonomous nervous system to make sure that it runs 24/7 as it's meant to. It's really a machine that must be looked after very carefully, and unfortunately we don't do a very good job of that. And the medical system, I'll be honest with you, don't really do a good job of encouraging it either. They just believe that wait till it breaks and then we'll fix it for you. And that's sort of the mentality that everyone has these days, which is why we see so many health problems like diabetes and heart problems that could have easily been prevented. But the health system itself does nothing to really encourage that. They try to create more pills and surgeries to fix it, instead of talking more about the stuff that you should be doing to prevent the problem. All right, so maintenance is critical. You just cannot ignore it or neglect it. And you may get away with it. This is the problem, because you may get away with it in the short term, or think you've got away with it, because there's no warning signal telling you to stop doing what you're doing and change your destructive ways. It's only after a long period of time that this signal starts to appear as something really drastic. But when it's at that point, it's really a long road back, and for some people they may never come back. So the best thing to do is to never hear that warning signal by constantly looking after it. You don't really want to wait till it breaks down to try and fix it, which is what the health and the medical world wants you to do. You really got to take responsibility of your own body and constantly looking after it all the time. So what can you do? Well, like I alluded to, there's really like 8 things. Yeah, there could be more, you know, depending on, like for me, I've probably tried to break it down into the things that I see the most. So you may have 5 or 6 of these down pat, but it's the 2 that you don't have right that you really got to work on. So in no real particular order, perhaps maybe breathing might be the highest rated one, because if you run out of air, you're going to be dead really very quickly. But you know, all of these, like I said, all of these factors are connected to each other. So I can't really say one's of more importance. It's just depending on the person. But we'll run through these quite quickly to give you an idea. But these are the 8 things that I would say, if you have these under control, you're very unlikely to develop problems in, you know, no matter what stage of your life you're in. All right, so let's get into it. So the first one is the mental health. So we know that stress is a massive saboteur of any health or fitness program, and even the fittest and strongest, even the elite athletes, can be cut down in a real short amount of time from stress. It really can just unravel things super fast. So quite a complex topic to discuss. You know, it's not really an easy solution for this. You just have to recognize the damage it can do to you and constantly have strategies in place to help you control it and deal with it when it comes up. So, because if you leave it unchecked, it can create massive problems with blood pressure, which, you know, increases chances of stroke and various other health disease problems. Not to mention, you know, social and psychological things that are going on at the same time. In other things that you will see as a end result of excessive stress is a stockpile of fat around your belly from the excessive running of the stress hormone cortisol. Really just starts to play around with the glucose and how well you can break things down, and you know, and that's where you see type 2 diabetes and other things sort of becoming a bigger problem. You know, you feel worse because you're putting on weight, so on and so on. That endless supply of cortisol really starts to weaken your immune system, and then that leaves you vulnerable to the deadly diseases such as the diabetes, but also cancer, heart disease, and all the various other things that we know are real killers of our health. So you know, quite a complex topic to discuss this one. It's an interesting statistic with diabetes. So, you know, people with diabetes up to 8 times more likely to experience heart failure. So, you know, I won't go into too much detail. I could spend 2 hours talking about this. It's such a massive topic, but, you know, like I said before, just constantly finding ways to beat, or not necessarily beat isn't a good word, maybe control it. So meditation, exercise in general, Tai Chi, yoga. There's no real one way or the best way. It's just whatever works for you. Make sure you get quality sleep, because if you're compromising your sleep, it's really going to play a big role in creating some of these issues, and really affects the other systems quite dramatically. So when you consider we spend nearly 1/3 of our life sleeping, it really is very, very, very important. So and there's a lot of people that just don't get enough sleep, and everyone thinks that they shut down at night, but it's really the exact opposite, because your digestive system is going to hyperdrive to try and use the time to break down foods and send vitamins and minerals to important cells within your body. It's really doing a hell of a lot of things at night that it can't do during the day. So if you're compromising your sleep, you're really going to pay for it in a big way. So this is a slide of describing what the circadian rhythm is like. So we basically bound, the circadian rhythm's based on the sun and the moon, and we're basically meant to follow that, and at various times of the day our body will start to do a lot of its important functions. So all the rest and repair stuff is done at night. It's not done during the day. So in this where you can really start to pay a big price if you're tapping into that area. Make sure you check the description on the video, because it goes into a lot more detail over a lot of this stuff I'm just skimming through. So if the first thing was mental health, this second one is breathing. I could have made this first really, but breathing is very important because it feeds oxygen to every cell in our body. Nothing ranks higher in importance to us, because without air we will die. You've got about 3 minutes before you're dead. All right, so it's that important to us that we really have to do it. So a lot of people may be able to get breath, or oxygen, but they may not be getting enough, or they may even be getting too much. You know, and all these sort of problems start to really become a big problem because we're doing it all the time. We just can't ever shut this system down. So we have to really consider the role that this is playing in making sure that we're breathing in the correct way and getting the best out of it, because it's a system designed to never shut down. So here's some facts that you may or may not know. So I mentioned this one a second ago. If you stop breathing at about 3 to 4 minutes before you're dead, but it also maintains our acid alkaline and our pH balance, helps us in the breakdown of food for metabolism, really greatly influences our posture. It's a big part of our ability to create strength and stability of our spine and our pelvis, so it acts as a stabilizer system. It also generates cerebral fluid in the spine, so that's necessary for a healthy musculoskeletal and spinal system, and even controls our emotions. So you can see breathing playing a big role in a lot of things that we have for our health. It's a lot more than people would realize. So if you're not breathing well, you know, again, check the description down below, because I've got links that you can go into more detail for this. This video is just to bring you aware of the things you need to know. Number 3, nutrition. So we know if we eat food that's good for us, it's going to help us, make us healthy. But if we eat junk, it's going to make us very unhealthy. It's a no-brainer, but you know, a lot of people are ignorant because they just don't get the warning signal to change it from eating, you know, the terrible foods that they should be avoiding. So we've got to be careful of eating too many of the grain foods and sugars. They're the ones that really screw up our system the most, really disrupt insulin and leptin hormones. You know, and again, like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, I bring them up all the time, but they're the things that are the biggest killers in society at the moment. They're by far, you know what I mean? So, and it's really comes back to the things that we do in our lifestyle that lead to this, and you know, obviously food's a huge part of it. So eating a range of a variety of food, so getting a lot from vegetables especially, you know, good fats and good proteins. If we're eating a lot of that stuff, so the old saying, you are what you eat, is so true. So, you know, if we're sort of eating this sort of stuff less often, moderate amount of these, but eating quite freely through fats and good vegetables and stuff like that, there's a good chance you'll be quite a healthy person if you're eating in this way. If you're sort of flipping that around and eating too many carbs, well, you really are going to suffer a big price. In terms of fruits and vegetables, so if you're only eating 1 or 2 of them, it's good that you're eating vegetables, but you're really missing out on a lot of things from not eating a good variety. And that's another problem I see, people just eating the same thing all the time, like just tomato and lettuce. We really should be eating a hell of a lot more different variety in their food. So, you know, each sort of colour in this, you can sort of quickly see here, you know, they sort of have different functions that they can improve in our system for us. Some of the best foods that you can eat, you know, so this is a good little chart that you can refer to, so you can see that none of these descriptions here have got anything about pizzas and pastas and hamburgers. You won't find any of those things are going to help these parts of your body. All right, so again, it's a no-brainer, and you know, everyone knows this stuff, but it's amazing just how many people don't do it. Gut health, really heavily linked to mental stress and the nutrition, obviously. So you know, so this system is a very important one to our ability for it to create a healthier immune system. So if there was ever a time we needed a strong immune system, it's right now. So, you know, and a lot of people really suffer with gut health, and it presents itself as many different problems. Could be skin problems, could be headaches, migraines, you know, really mental problems as well, so fogginess and fatigue, you know, all those sort of things that can really disrupt a lot of things within our body very, very quickly. Even joint problems, it really can present as coming from gut health. So quite a big topic, to a bit like mental health, quite a big one to discuss. So I won't go into too much detail, but just to make you aware of it. Functional movement, so we're at number 5. So this is one of those things where moving's, for some people, they don't bother about it until it's too late. And it's when they're in this position, they're in a wheelchair, they now want to try and do something about it, where they really had many chances a long time ago to try and do something, but they left it too long. So we need a certain amount of exercise to maintain our skills of balance, our mobility, our strength, just to meet life's demands. So getting in and out of a chair is a life demand, and you can see this guy here is not meeting life's demands. Even this guy getting off the floor needing a walking stick, this is not normal, all right? And it's nothing to do with being old. There's plenty of old people that can do this with ease. You know, in younger people, it can present as back pain, shoulder pain, and then again, it presents as diseases or even osteoarthritis. So if you're not meeting the minimum demands of life because you don't move very well, you're going to pay a big price. These are not exercises. These are just called movement patterns that we are bound to require for life. So life's minimum movements, you know, and there's actually 7 of these key patterns of movement that we need, and you know, and you just can't really, a bit like the system of systems chart before, it'd be like, okay, which one are you happy to do without? You're really not happy to do without any of them. You want to keep all of them, because without it, you're going to really have to change your entire lifestyle to meet your lack of movement ability. All right, so functional movement is everything to maintaining a healthy body. So this is where you must develop your skills, you know, and you don't have to be an elite athlete, but you just need to have a certain degree of meeting these movement demands. Mobility. So mobility problems can really compromise movement and create movement dysfunction. So, or it could be movement dysfunctions creating poor mobility, but they're really related to each other in quite a close way. So a lot of people ignore it, again, because they don't see any immediate problem from it. It's only later on, when the stiffness becomes a problem and they can't get in positions, or they start injuring themselves because of it, they recognise that they should be working on it. It would have been heaps easier if they did it all along. So trying to go straight to physical, heavy or hard physical training without addressing any of these mobility problems really brings in a lot of problems later on as well. So you'll never be at your full potential if you have poor mobility. So it's something that you can't ignore. You just won't get away with it in the long term. So another good quote here: stability driven by optimal mobility. As mobility improves mechanoreceptor stimulation, poor mobility equals poor function, which equals poor stability. All right, so following on from mobility is obviously stability. Again, as I've said many times, everything's closely linked to the next one. So stiffness of joints prevents you creating good stability, and not just of your core, but of all joints. And now you have to compensate around them. Poor stability ends up leading to back pain or you know, injury and pain, but it also leads to osteoarthritis. So you know, you start to see a lot of problems resulting from you know, just not having good stability to be able to center joints in their correct position. You end up wearing cartilage, ligaments, tendons, soft tissue, everything away, and having that bone-on-bone experience that's extremely painful every time you move. All right, so you have to be constantly working on it all the time. The last thing is bone density and strength. So this comes back to muscular strength. This is really the glue that holds it all together. So not just in terms of the musculoskeletal system either, it's very important to our hormones. So again, this can greatly influence like hormones like insulin, which is important for metabolism and glucose regulation and all sorts of things. So Muscle's biggest influence on our metabolic rate. So the more you have, the faster your metabolism, the easier it is to maintain or lose weight. Helps to regulate our hormones, like I mentioned before, which can help prevent those deadly diseases like diabetes and cancer. The more muscle you have, the better your chances are. Bone density, obviously, it prevents fractures and things like that, but also softening of bones with osteoporosis, sarcopenia, and osteoarthritis, like we spoke about before. So, which leads into the next thing, which helps you to improve stability because you have better strength within the muscles. So, and if you want to get into heavy physical training or sports, obviously you're going to really improve that part of your lifestyle dramatically as well. The weaker you are, I don't know anyone who wants to be weaker. I've never met a person who said to me, Nick, I need to become weak. I've met thousands of people who need to be stronger though. All right, so in summary, the old saying, prevention's a much better than a cure, is really so true. So don't expect to hear that from the medical profession or the media, who just love to obsess themselves with magic pills, surgery, and trying to fix things after it's broken. I'm more concerned with trying to maintain things so that it never breaks. So these are the things where it comes down to you, because the medical profession won't help you until you're broken. This is all your responsibility to do this yourself, and hopefully some of the things I've spoken about here will make you become more aware. So always remember, each factor is bound to the next. You can't just sort of focus on one and ignore the others. You can't even focus on 7 and ignore 1. You really have to have them all, because if one of them's off, they're all off. All right, so again, check the description of the video. If there's tons of reports you can get that go into great detail about nutrition and things, exercise, that if you're really struggling in that area, that can help you out a lot. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed that video, and we'll see you on our next one.